Welcome all to Just Minding My Business Media. I hope you are having an amazing day. And I am so honored to bring my next guest this week, who, after years of struggling with the mysterious health issues, Brad's life changed dramatically when he was diagnosed with autoimmune arthritis in 2010 and malignant melanoma in 2014. Through his doctor's prescribed treatments, Brad grew uneasy about the potential increase in cancer risk and these therapies pose. Determined to find a safer, more holistic path, he dived deeper into his health and uncovered additional infections, Lyme disease, and what is that, Bartonella? Did I
Yep.
say that right?
Bartonella, that's right.
Okay. As his fatigue, brain fog, and limited mobility became overwhelming, Greg sought alternatives that could offer real relief. Wow. I am so excited to have you because, like we were talking before we came on air, I'm a holistic beast. I am. I do not take a lot of pharmaceutical medicines at all.
Love that. Love that as well. Yeah, at some point, sometimes it takes a health crisis for some of us to figure out that we've got to own our own wellness. So
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I tell my children something. I tell them all wisdom is pain. Now, the question is whether it's yours or somebody else's. In my case, I needed to learn it through my own pain that like I needed to do it a different way.
Yes, and that's usually how it happens. We don't believe until it happens to us. And then it's like, okay, this is real. So tell us how. What did you do? Just give us the timeline.
Well, I've had weird health stuff going on since at least first or second grade. Some of them were persistent. I had psoriasis that developed at that time, and I, never really got rid of it. Sometimes it was worse, sometimes it was better. It was never horrible though. It was mostly like on my scalp, and you couldn't see it, and I'd get a patch here and there. And then I'd have other weird things that were probably more obtrusive in my life, but they would kind of come and go. I would go to a doctor and they'd give me a diagnosis and there was no treatment and then it would go away. And so I was like, well, whatever that was. But as you mentioned, it all came to a head when I started to develop psoriatic arthritis, which is basically it's kind of like rheumatoid arthritis, but when you have psoriasis, very similar autoimmune arthritis. And I went to the doctor and we tried several treatments that didn't work. And then they pulled out the big guns and they would help me for 6 months and then they would wear off. And then they would double the dose and it would last for another 6 months. And then it would wear off and I'd be in a worse position than I was when I started. And that went on for about 18 months or 2 years, I think probably 2 years. And then I developed melanoma. And so I went to my rheumatologist and I was like, because I knew that these drugs had a higher risk of cancers and specifically melanoma. And I'd never had melanoma before. So I was putting a
Right.
quick two and two together. And so I said, hey, doc, I'm kind of worried. Like, it's kind of like two paths here. Either I take the drugs and I have the high potential of getting melanoma and, even dying from it, or I don't take the drugs and I just become more and more crippled and I die in pain and misery. And I said, and I've got like a young family, so I really can't see myself dying. So what do we do here? And he's like, well, look, let's just try another drug in the same class and maybe it won't react the same way. And all of a sudden, just alarm bells were going off in my head like, oh gosh, Brad, this is the flashback you're going to have on your deathbed. This talk right here. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. And so I went home and I started to do my own research about my health, and trying to figure out how I could get better and what that third path forward could be. And it took me a lot of time. I mean, I tried a lot of stuff, Ida. I tried a lot of stuff.
I believe you.
I mean, diet, supplements, different modalities, lifestyle stuff. I talked to a lot of folks who are sick and trying to get better, and they'll list off stuff they've tried. And in my head, I'm always like, yep, check, check. And, even stuff that's become popular in recent years, 10, 15 years ago, I was trying it. And so nothing worked. And I went to a doctor, and he ended up suggesting oxygen. And he said, you should either do hyperbaric oxygen or you should do EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy. And I'd never heard of EWOT, like probably most of your listeners. And so I was like, I'm going to do hyperbaric because I've heard of that. But it was really prohibitive. I couldn't do it because I needed to spend 7 days a week. I needed to go into this tube that was, for 90 minutes a session, plus pressurization and depressurization time, plus time to travel to and from a doctor's office. It was going to be 2.5 or 3 hours a day. And it was cost prohibitive. It was going to be somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 for the whole course of treatments. Yeah. Well, and even worse, like I had tried 50,000 different things and nothing worked. So this sounded like a really expensive experiment to find out it didn't work too. And, I didn't have that many $50,000 experiments in my back pocket. I don't even know if I had one. So begrudgingly, I looked at this exercise with oxygen therapy thing, and there were a few companies selling it at the time. They were charging pretty high prices, but more reasonable, $5,000 to $25,000. But it only took 15 minutes, and you could buy it and do it in your home. But there really wasn't a lot of information on it. The only information was coming from the companies, and it was very much hyperbole, kind of marketing, sort of,
Yeah.
and it was like I didn't like. I didn't have that faith in it. And again, it was one of those things like, I can't even see myself plunking down 10 grand on another experiment when nothing's worked. I just can't see myself doing it. And I looked around the web, and there were no other folks talking about it. I didn't hear any consumers saying, hey, I did the thing and I here's how it helped me. So it would have been a leap of faith on this doctor's advice and these companies selling it. And I didn't have that level of faith. So I kind of set out to figure out how it worked and made my own. And it did help. I was, surprisingly, it was one of the first things that helped me. And I started to get better. And about a year later, I went back to that same doctor, and he noticed how much better I was. And he asked me, who'd you buy it from so I can tell my patients? And I said, Doc, I didn't buy it. I just made it. And he kind of was a little bit startled. And then after he gave himself a moment to think that through, he looked at me kind of, and he's like, hey, would you consider making them for my patients? And I was kind of like, wow, I wasn't thinking about that. I don't, I just need to get better. And I still wasn't better at this point. And so I said, well, let me think about it, Doc. It took me about another year. And then about a year later, we launched 1,000 Roads to help make EWOT more affordable and try to bring some of the science forward so people could understand it. And also kind of make it more transparent. So actually have customer reviews on site, customer testimonials, etc. So when people were in the same situation I was, they could learn more about it and make an informed decision. And if they chose to, make it affordable, because, when you're sick, you feel like everyone's got a $50,000 solution for you. And you don't, oftentimes it's hard to work and make money. And so you just don't have that, you don't have that kind of money. And so we wanted to make it more accessible to people.
Oh, wow. I tell you, God sends us through our pain just to help somebody else through their pain. And, although you've gone through a lot, but it was not in vain.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think so much I thought about when I was going through it and trying to get better is trying to bring meaning to all of the pain and the suffering and difficulty. And I thought about that as I was getting better. I'm like, it would be such a shame if all of this was for nothing, if it was just so I could go back to life as it was before. That just seems kind of like foolhardy. Like, you're a different person for it. And, you're where I was working had nothing, no relation to this. And there is this profound sort of gratitude when you don't think you're ever going to get out of this thing and you do get out of it. And you do kind of want to pay it forward, and help other people. At least I did. So that was kind of where this came from, was a need to bring meaning to my own suffering and to help other people. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
There's nothing really on the other side of that in living life.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
There's,
So let's
yeah.
talk about how this oxygen, because I want to get as much as I can in this short period of time, and we may have to have you come back.
Okay.
Okay, because this is already deep for me. So, how does oxygen support the healing process?
Such a great question. So, obviously, we all know oxygen is fundamental to life, right? Like, it's needed for everything. So, in a nutshell, your body has two ways of producing energy. There's what's called aerobic respiration, which is where it uses oxygen plus, glucose, and it turns it into an energy source. And then there's something called anaerobic respiration. So if your cells can't get enough oxygen, they have this alternate form where they just burn the glucose without oxygen. Now, the challenge when the cells do that is two things happen. The first thing that happens is it's much lower energy state. So the cell can only produce about 5% of the energy without oxygen as it can with oxygen. So you can imagine if your battery is going from 100% down to 5%, there's a lot of stuff your cells are not able to do. They're kind of like on life support mode. Now, to compound that whole thing, when you go into anaerobic respiration, you produce a lot of metabolic waste products like lactic acid. So if you've ever worked out at the gym and your muscles got sore, that was lactic acid. So what happened was when you were working out, you were working your muscles faster than they could consume oxygen. And so they went anaerobic, and now they developed all this lactic acid. Well, that lactic acid is not only a waste product, but it's also causing further cellular damage. And because your cells are in this low energy state, they leave all this metabolic waste inside the cell walls. So this is a problem. Obviously, if your cells are not getting enough oxygen, they're not able to do everything that they're best at. And that's everything from your brain cells to your heart cells, to your immune system, to your skin, to your bones, all of it. It all needs oxygen to do what liver, the whole thing, everything needs oxygen to do whatever it does at its best. Now, the challenge is, as we age, every year past the age of 25, our body loses about 1% of its ability to utilize oxygen. And so you don't notice this at first. At 27 and 30, you still feel pretty darn good. But then you get 40 and you get 50 and you get 60 and 70, and you notice you don't have as much energy as you used to. Your brain's foggier. You don't remember things as well. You don't sleep as well. Your joints hurt. All of these things, that's because what we now call in what's now commonly referred to is inflammaging, this natural inflammation process that occurs as we age. And as we age and we have inflammation, it actually chokes off blood supply because there's inflammation inside of our blood vessels. And so what does that do? That causes all the cells downstream to go anaerobic, and now they don't have energy to do what they need to do. So the aha moment for EWOT was in the 1960s and 70s. There's this researcher, very prolific guy. He invented the scanning electron microscope. He helped with the commercialization of TVs in the 1930s. His name is Van Arden. Now, in the 1960s and 70s, he decided to start researching exercise with oxygen and looking at it particularly for oxygen's strong anti-cancer benefits. And one of the things he found was when you breathe oxygen while you're exercising, it creates this really strong anti-inflammatory impact. And it reopens all of those choked off blood vessels. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. The weather is changing here and it seems to be getting me a little bit. And by changing, I'm in Texas. So, I mean, it went from 105 down to 92. So, it's cooling off here.
A big drop.
But still hot.
Right.
So, he discovered that it created this anti-inflammatory impact. And in fact, one of the coolest things I learned on my journey was oxygen is a really powerful anti-inflammatory. So, and the science is really pretty cool. It shows that anywhere in your body you have low oxygen, you have inflammation, and anywhere you have inflammation, you have low oxygen. It's the same thing. And so, if we can reestablish oxygenation to your tissues, we're tamping down on the inflammation, and inflammation is at the root of pretty much every major disease that exists out there. So we're giving the cells the energy they need to repair. We're helping them clear out and detoxify cellular waste. We're strengthening the immune system, and we're tamping down on inflammation all in one time.
Wow. Whoa, wow.
Right?
So, what is EWOT?
It's a good question. So to back up, EWOT stands for exercise with oxygen therapy, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. What you do is you do a cardiovascular exercise of your choice for just 15 minutes while you have a mask on, breathing near pure oxygen, about 93% oxygen. Now, to compare that, at sea level, we have about 21% oxygen. So it's a large increase in the fraction of oxygen available to you, but we're also hijacking all these physiological changes that happen in your body when you exercise. Because like when you exercise, your body naturally recognizes it's in an oxygen deficit. It's like, I don't have enough oxygen to keep my muscles pumping. And so it makes all these physiological changes. You're breathing deeper and faster, your heart's beating faster, your blood vessels dilate to allow more oxygen to go through. And so at the same time all that's happening, we're breathing an increased ratio of oxygen, and we're just flooding the body with oxygen. And so in this 15-minute session, you can get as much oxygen as you would get in a typical day in like 12 or 14 hours in just 15 minutes.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
that's right. And so that's the power of it. Is it's about the same as if you were to spend 90 minutes in a hard shell hyperbaric chamber on your back, but no one has time to spend 90 minutes, plus driving to the doctor and the 3 hours that all looks like. And even if you could do those little light home hyperbaric chambers, they wouldn't be as effective and they take much more time. But like most folks can find 15 minutes. And I think that's actually one of the things that makes it more powerful than anything else, is that how accessible it can be to folks, both from a time perspective and from having it in your own home perspective.
So, whether you have like any ailments or anything, let's say you young and you understand what's happening and
Yep.
you decide to do this, is that recommended for all ages? Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
We have folks from teenagers up through very elderly using it. A lot of them have a variety of health conditions they're using to help themselves improve their wellness. I mean, a ton of health conditions. We talked about my Lyme disease and autoimmunity. We have folks with long COVID, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancers, traumatic brain injuries, stroke, et cetera, et cetera. So many things that it's helpful with, because again, inflammation's at the root of so much, and increasing cellular energy increases the healing speed and the healing capabilities of the body. But we also have a group of folks who use it because it's anti-aging, the biohacker set, if you will. And we have folks who are using it to improve, or just improving to their health span. Hey, I'm 75 and I had a lawyer call me from Canada. He said, I'm in my 80s and I just don't, I think I could get 4 more hours of workout if I had a clearer head and had more energy. And I was like, well, you go, man. At 80, you want to keep producing. That power to you. I think this is going to help you. And then we have folks who use it for athletic performance. It has an incredible athletic performance. So if you're healthy and young and you want to perform better, great. but that's also really good for folks who are not super healthy. So we have folks who are like, yeah, but exercise. Yeah, right. And I get that. But the great thing is when you have the mask on, the exercise is actually easier. So I kind of describe it like this, Ida. Like if you were on the treadmill and doing exercise every day at, like, let's say you're running at 5 miles an hour, and then you put the mask on at 5 miles an hour, you're not going to feel like you're getting the same workout. So you're going to crank it up to 5.5 or maybe even 6. And then in a few months or in a few weeks, probably crank it up again. And in a couple months again, sort of thing for a while. So it's like, it's just easier to do. And so you can do more of it. And so I think that's powerful for both folks who want to have better performance, but also for the regular person who's like, I'm not sure if I can do this sort of thing. So we have a lot of very sick folks who are starting out and finding that they're able to improve their health through this as well.
Wow. So how can people get connected with you to get this product?
Sure. Our website is 1000roads.com. It's all spelled out, ONETHOUSANDROADS.com. So they can go there. They can also go to our YouTube channel to learn more about it. It's 1000 Roads HQ, all spelled out. We talk about two things. We talk about EWOT, which we just spoke about now, and we talk about red light therapy, which a lot more people have heard of red light therapy, but what they don't realize is that's also an kind of an oxygen therapy in its own sense. So EWOT drives high oxygen supply, and then red light actually drives high oxygen demand by your mitochondria. So they're kind of the synergistic blend where when you put them together, it's like filling the tank with gas in a high performance sort of engine. You're able to drive all of your cells to maximize their oxygen utilization and their healing abilities.
Wow. So do you offer the red light therapy as well?
We do.
Oh, okay. That's good because I bought one of them little things, but I haven't been consistent. So, but
Yep.
you know how you just reading and it works on this, it works on that. So I bought a little one. So I haven't really played with it as much as I probably should have. But now that we're talking, I might have a different perspective now.
That's right. It's it's really, I mean, and that's how it works. So when you hear about all these benefits, you're hearing it helps the bones heal faster. You're helping keep the skin more youthful. Um, all of the other cognitive health, all these things, it's all the same thing. It's just driving more oxygen into your cells. And each one of those cell types, when it has more oxygen, it's able to heal and repair more quickly. And so, and the cool thing about red light is I would say it's not like a supplement. It's actually, if you think about it, it's just replacing the red. And when I say red, I mean red and near infrared. We're replacing the red and near infrared that we've actually phased out. So we all spend so much time indoors versus where we have historically. And in an effort to have energy efficiency, all of our lighting systems are generally designed to screen out reds and near infrared lights because they create a lot of heat and they don't create a lot. It's not necessarily good for viewing things, right? It doesn't help with viewing. So we don't want those because it's a waste of energy. But what that means is all of us who spend time indoors, myself included, we go into a natural red light and near infrared light deficit. And so this is really just replacing that so that our cells have what they need to do what they're naturally designed to do.
Wow. And I didn't really I mean, I've read some stuff about the red light therapy. That's probably why I ended up buying it. Um, but now I like the way you explain things. It's like so clear and transparent. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ida.
Yes. So I'm like really so with the oxygen therapy, I know you listed a few things that people can get um help with. What other things can people, like diseases?
I mean, look, here's the deal. At the end of the day, you go pick a disease and go look at it and research it. And likely at the root is inflammation,
Yes.
right? We all know this. And that And you're going to find a few things that are common: inflammation, metabolic problems, meaning generally your mitochondria are having issues. Our mitochondria are what are known as the powerhouses of our cells. Those are the components of our cells that actually take oxygen in and produce energy. And they're some of the most fragile parts of the cell. They're the things that are most easily damaged by oxidative stress, by foreign invaders like infectious agents, etc. And so, pretty much, then there's this second layer that happens with a lot of chronic illness, which is first you have this metabolic problem, you have this inflammation that occurs because of it, and then you have what I'll call toxic overload, whether it's an infectious agent that's filling your cells and your immune system with toxins to suppress them, or whether it's like Alzheimer's. We talk about like the plaques and the tangles and what's going on in there. Um, all these different things. There's the inability of the body to clear out these waste products. And so we help with the inflammation. It helps with detoxification through a variety of channels. But like the most simple way to explain it is when your body wants to take a toxin out, it often needs to break it into a simpler molecule that your liver and your kidneys and your elimination organs can excrete. And the process whereby it does that is called oxidation, which is literally using oxygen is kind of, I'll call it a catalyst, but that's probably not the right term. Using oxygen in a reaction to break it apart so that we can get it out of the body. So anything that involves inflammation and anything that involves damaged tissue and anything that involves toxins in the body, we've seen a lot of great things. That's autoimmunity, that's chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, long COVID, like I said, brain health issues, neurological issues, so many cancers. A lot of research that shows that cancer can't survive in an oxygen-rich environment. And a lot of research that shows that the survival rate of people with cancer is directly correlated to how much oxygen is in the tumor. And their success, whether they use traditional therapies or not, is directly correlated to the tumor oxygen status. So it's kind of crazy when you get down to it. There's a doctor, Arthur Guyton. Arthur Guyton wrote the book called Medical Physiology, and every doctor any of us have ever seen since the 1950s has had to read his textbook in medical school. It's still the gold standard today. And he's got this quote that I love where he just says, at the root of all disease is lack of oxygen at the cellular level. And that's really it. And so obviously we're helping folks reoxygenate those cells.
That's amazing. You're a God gift, because a lot of people are in pain. And, a lot of people are out there taking pharmaceutical medications that's really not helping them. I mean, it's a temporary fix. We all know that. It's like, I'm going to feel better right now. Or what I hate is you sleep. Everything knocks you out.
Mm-hmm.
So you vegetating.
We're all looking for a higher quality of life.
Yeah.
Like not just duration. When people say I want to live longer, no one wants to live longer if life stinks.
Right.
They want to have more years of feeling great and enjoying this God-given body we have, so to speak, right? So I think it's really about health span more than lifespan, and that's really the goal.
Yes, you hit it on the nose, because who wants to be around all broken up?
Yeah,
Can't do nothing.
I can relate. Yeah, I think back to some of those. It's and that's kind of where it came from, right? Is like it can be a very dark place when you're there, especially, I had Lyme disease, and it's kind of like when you tell a doctor you have Lyme disease, they look at you like you said you saw Bigfoot half the time. They tell you it doesn't exist, or even when you can show them like, hey, look, I've got the DNA of the bacteria inside me. So they still are kind of like, yeah, I haven't heard of that. Like sort of like,
Right.
So I would say it's kind of like a do-it-yourself sort of disease. Once you have it, like you're kind of like it's like being dropped in the forest and like have a fun time, find your way out, hopefully. And so it is. It's a very isolating place to be when you're very sick. And all you ever want is to be back in a place where you can try to enjoy your life and move forward. So that was a gift to me, and so that's a gift I try to help push forward.
Yes, yes, and I am definitely seeing that you're doing that. So again, how do people get the product?
Yep, you can purchase on our website. So, like I said, it's 1000roads.com, ONETHOUSANDROADS.com. We have our systems on there, we have our red lights on there. And if you're not, if you want to learn more, like I said, the best place to go is 1000 Roads HQ on our YouTube channel. And we put out a fresh video every week with more content to help educate people. And you can also follow along in the comments and the community that we're building there as well.
Righty now. So now I'm gonna have to get on over there and sign myself up because I'm definitely interested in this because I know folks like I just talked to a friend of mine last night and she something going on with her back. She can't move. And I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean? She in a massage chair. So
Mm,
she need to know about you.
awesome. That's great.
That is for sure. And I like your approach to it. It's very clear. Most people can understand how things are interacting the way that you explain it. So I really, really, this has been an amazing time with you. To
Thank you
say
so much, Ida. I've appreciated it.
yes, yes, indeed. So, audience, you definitely want to connect with Brad, especially if you or someone you know have inflammation, which we've just learned is the root of all illnesses. Connect. And I will make sure when this airs that you have everything you need to connect. So, thank you again for joining us. And, Brad, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ida. I appreciate your time.